Hello, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the Enough Talk video podcast. I'm the man who knows the truth behind the Sonic restaurant myth, Paul Ashman, and I am joined by Red Pill advocate Jesse Grabowski. Hi, Jesse.
Red pill advocate.
You are an advocate of the red pill. Is that not correct? Am I mischaracterizing your philosophical positions?
Is I don't know if I want to be associated with any sort of like philos. So I need to turn my video on so I can get my finger quotes. Philosophical movement, which takes its nomenclature entirely from '90s science fiction movies. It seems pretty good.
That
It's
movie
like
totally holds up. That's a great movie, man.
I love that movie.
You
It's a
know, I
fantastic
think
movie. I think
the reason every Don't you think the reason everything tastes like chicken is because they lack the sophistication to code things properly?
I also played and enjoyed Depression Quest. So clearly, my social justice warrior credentials are well established. I fight the good fight on Twitter and Tumblr. I trigger warning all my stuff. I don't microaggress. How dare you call me red pill?
I actually also read or played Depression Quest, but in its original form, choose your own adventure novels.
That's right.
I'm old school. I'm
I
old school,
you're
baby.
rocking the choose your own adventure goosebumps in fourth grade. It was like I
Absolutely.
love those books because they
Which
harangue you. There's always like page one. It's like you walk up to the haunted house. Your friend, your friend goes in. Your other friend is kind of scared. You don't know what to do. If you want to leave, go turn to page 80. You turn to page 80. It's like you're a big pussy. Like why did you buy this book?
This is basically it. You chose not to engage in an adventure, and done.
Fancy.
Um, I actually I had this thing where like I'd read my choose your own adventure book, and as soon as my first adventure was done, I was like, oh, that was kind of boring and stupid. And then it wasn't until many years later that I realized I could like go back and choose a different path and sort of decide a different route. And it actually took me a while. I was like, oh, I can actually just make different choices because I've never been one to sort of think about the consequences of my choices. I just assume like, well, that happened and the story is over. Let's go buy another book.
My
Uh,
problem with the choose your own adventure was that I would always read them sequentially. An incredibly disorienting experience.
just keep reading them until to
Just
see what
keep
happens.
plowing through. Like turn the page. Like wait a second. Like I was just in the
Um,
house. Now I'm in the garden. Like how did this happen?
did you ever have that experience where it's like go to page 26 and you actually go to page like 28? You're like, I don't, and
Yeah.
then, like you read through a couple of pages. You're like, this doesn't. I'm so confused. Like, who is
Good.
this character they've introduced?
Good idea.
Like, how
Terrible.
did I get?
I guess was it a good idea? I can't
Yeah.
decide if it was a good idea. I think it was. Just it doesn't really. It's like a good
Um.
idea on paper. Get it? Because it's a book.
Right. Right. It's. Oh wow. Okay. And with that very clever comment, I'll just let that stand as our final comment. I don't think any of us can do any better than that. Let's move on to the decks. I guess I'll go first. I'm playing a very what's the nomenclature? Spicy brew, I believe. Is that am I using
That's
those
the
terms
hip. That's the
correctly?
hip slang. Sure, that's the lingo.
Yeah, I'm hip. I'm with it. I get my Netflix DVDs mailed to me. I'm cool. I'm with society here.
Word, word.
Um, so I got a text from one of our sort of new burgeoning playgroup members by the name of Martin Johnson, and
Mm-hmm.
he sent me a text asking like, "Hey, what do you think of Kobai Sensei now that we've got this new love letter Scorpion guy, Shishori Yamazaki? Do you think he might be good enough to make Kobai Sensei Scorpion work in strict?" And of course, my immediate answer is, "My God, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I just don't know." Like that was who, what, like what do these cards do? Like, so I whipped out my smartphone and pulled up my L5R app, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe. So this is a completely unplayed, untested deck, but it's a Kobai Sensei deck. So I'm going to just try to draw the game out and keep your thing like bowed and gain some conspiracy tokens. And one of my big uses for that is Yamazaki. I'll be dishonoring your guys and bowing them. And filling out the deck, I've got some sort of courtier dishonor people. Katako is just really great. Her interaction with spells that we'll get to. Honor lost courtier guy, and then cheap courtier shug, and then cheap shug who is a blood speaker who puts out stuff for free.
but
The
not blood
Abbot, it's
tokens.
all about acceleration. That's right. No. Also, the Abbot lets me. I love this. He lets me buy a conspiracy token. I think I'm going to play the Abbot a lot moving forward. This is the only deck in which I'll actually care about his invests. So that's really exciting. Saya because she's awesome, and then Uboros, which is sort of how I win the game. I'm just so Kobai Sensei decks. Like it came out in a line in the sand, and I think every team or every sort of regional play group had one guy trying really hard to sort of make the Oboro Kobai Sensei deck, where you sort of you get them out and you shuffle them in and you get them out again and you shuffle them in. And, there ended up being a couple of degenerate builds. I had one that was turn 6/7. I know the one I think I got tossed around the internet was the Dynasty or the Irish guys or whoever it is Donnie works most closely with. And I had like the Fever and the Bloods and all that stuff. And then after they errated a Boro here, everyone was just like, well, that's done. Let's just discard it and move on. And I think that's the appropriate attitude for Arc because of the speed and power of the military decks. But I think in Strict, there might actually be a way to sort of gum up the works and stall things a little bit and prig them with Dishonor and just buy some time to get some more bros. And you can always just Yahtzee too. That's always you've always got that sort of overpowered out. So that's what I'm going to be trying here. On the holding side, there's nothing really fancy. I'm running a couple of 1 gold cost things because Brilliant Cascade in and Court, and then take the favor stuff and small time pulley for Dishonor, Famous Bazaar. Moving on to my Fate, I've got my rings with long-term fruition, and then my spell here, of which do I not have a copy of the spell to draw a couple of cards? That's okay. Well, I just assumed I had Strength of the Fifth Ring in here. Got my progressives ready to go out, Walking the Ways, Touch of Death. Suspending Wind, trying to sort of increase it to make it harder for you to buy personalities, so you only get one, so I can Kobai sense you. Secrets to Dishonor Your Guy, which is the interaction of Secrets on the Wind on a Scorpion Shugenja with Yamazaki to keep things bowed. Some Imperial Summons, some Force Reduction, a couple of bit of ranged attack attrition effects. Plan Departure, Canadian Court, Bow effects. So I think you look at it, and I think every card you can sort of see how it lines up in the deck and what purpose it might be. This is a deck where I might be able to get like real mileage out of the Soul of Man in concert with Suspending Wind, in concert with other bow effects. I'm just going to try to slow him down, bottleneck it, maybe get his guys to bow or keep him from taking my provinces while I buy my Boros. So it probably is going to get run over, but I think it's a good place to start, and I'm sort of excited about it.
So yeah, I'm excited about this deck because finally, 10, 15, how many videos we put on the site now? At least 10 videos later, I'm not the guy playing the goofy Sugenja deck. Like, this puts a smile on my face. Like finally someone comes to the table with Suspending Winds and Secrets on the Winds and Touch of Death,
Soul of
and it's not
Man.
me.
I get to go. I can double Soul of Wind my Soshi Katako, and as long as she has an air spell, I'll get to use both Soul of Wind copies in a single. Like, that's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some juju to all this, and like you said, you look at all the cards, and everything sort of seems cool. The problem these decks always have, at least in my experience with dirtling, is that you end up just not having enough guys. Like, you look at like the combo with Secrets on the Wind, and then your
Don't
other
tell me
guy.
not to dirtle, man. I simply
Oh,
gotta.
I'm not going to tell you not to dirtle. I'm just letting people know sort of
Don't rain on my parade. Yeah.
what the things that can gum the works in these decks are. So you really have to be thinking about the economy of your bodies in play. Because you need guys to defend, you need guys to bow to do this, you need guys to bow to do that. Obviously, Scorpion's a good shell for it because your box is subtly powerful and it allows you to turn off a lot of the cards that could get you and it makes your defenses a little easier, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I'm excited to see how
I
your deck
did
does.
realize that I don't get to play the Bat Clan Girl Strength of the Fifth Ring because I start at 0 honor. I knew there was a reason. I actually started -1 honor. Take that, Spider Decks. I'm going second all the time.
All right, well, you play that, I play this. I'm playing a variant of Lion Breeder. So, Lion Breeder is.
How did this how did I end up with the Dirtily Shugenja Scorpion deck? And you were like, this is like a Freaky Friday
This
situation,
really
right?
is. I'm
Like,
really
I'm very
excited for today. So this is a goofy build. It's untuned. This is a beta version of a Lion Breeder deck. So Lion
beta
Breeder is a deck
language
that
of the
Paul played a lot in Arc, and it was built around this girl, Kitsu Laiko. She makes a guy every turn. Then we play Raised Destroyer. We
Watch
got
Orphan Black.
Ring of Air. We got Tsukai Sagasu. And so then we're just gonna make. So the idea is we make a guy on our turn, we make a guy on your turn. She's 10 gold, but after 2 turns or 3 turns of having well guy on my turn, guy on your turn, guy on my turn, guy on your turn, then she's 10 gold for 6 or 8 or whatever force, and that's not bad. And if the game
There's
ends
the
up,
double Shigeru
yeah,
too that I like a
double
lot. Where you go
Shigigawa's core, so she
a
can
lobby with
lobby, straighten, make a guy straighten. So lots of different ways to straighten her.
like
And then if the game goes long, we also have that like sort of we automatically win the game because we have infinite guys and you don't. And the deck got a little bit of help from Kitsu Suzaki. She's also another way to make sort of infinite guys. The deck always had a problem though because what would end up happening was you couldn't build a deck that could both uh, go long and live to go long. Right, like you needed to play a bunch of actions to survive in the early game, and then once you got to the late game, you didn't have anything to do because all of your actions were like technical setback and cards like this, like flashy techniques and stuff.
yep.
So what I wanted to try here was to play a bunch of cheap scouts, to play guys like Tayuko and Akinari and Ichimoku and Mari, and then just play a bunch of like
All who
Blitzing
were
type
in the
cards.
deck anyway because they have 3 PH, right? Like the 3 PH stat already had them cited into the
Yep.
deck, so it
So
wasn't
like,
like you had to really tort
well,
yourself.
well, the previous builds of this deck were playing more Shugenja. I'm just playing six. I'm playing Wanatabe because I'm trying out playing library as like let's make gold. But he might not
Yeah.
make the cut. But I sliced out all the Shugenja. I cut. We were playing Visions of Darkness to dig out Lyco. I said forget that. Let's just play a bunch of guys that can attack early, and then play some attack early cards. Let's play Inspired Devotion, Scouting Amidst the Snow, Contentious Terrain, Planned Departure because I got some 0 PH guys or little guys. I can send them home and gain some force. I got Destiny Has No Secrets, and then just a bunch of like generically good battle actions. So we got like Wounded in Battle, Strike at the Earth, Serenity is a really great card. Uncertainty to turn on so I can get
Serenity
like
is a card
dirtily
that,
range 3
yeah.
type stuff. And then a couple of toolboxy terrains. I've got Contentious, but then I'm also playing one Valiant Defense. This is a card I liked a lot in the previews. I think that just can randomly blow people out here and there if they can't answer it. And then one besieged fortifications. I figured like if giving all of my guys +1 force is good, giving all of your guys -1 force is also pretty okay. So just giving it a try. That was another like okay, you got a bunch of 4 force guys. I play this, then it turns on all my range threes. So it's pretty straightforward. The idea is like I'll try to attack early, take a province on 3 with some force pumps. Kind of they don't see it coming, and then I can play a province advantage and Lyco plus Suazaki and gain a boatload of guys, and it'll be tough for them to ever punch through that. And I can sort of be inevitable.
Yeah, and there's a really interesting sort of Russian engineering concept where we're sort of just jamming two sort of interesting, semi-successful, or in one case, very successful concepts. And I think there's something to be talked about where it's like it turns out you don't have to always warp your entire deck around a specific theme or strategy. That you can run this cool, powerful breeder card and a couple of support cards, but you don't have to contort all 80 cards specifically geared around this one thing. And I think that's a really important lesson, especially moving forward into Strict. You're going to see, I think, a lot more where it's like the more you try to bend things into a specific way, the more you end up getting punished for it.
For sure. And I'm sure this isn't the optimal build of the deck. But cards like Suzaki is a cool card that kind of bridges the gap because she's both a blitz card and
Just
a
really
go long, make a
powerful.
bunch of guys
Yeah.
card. I can leave her a face up on 2 after I buy 2 guys, then get a third guy, and then shuffle her back in for later. So she kind of like is the card that sort of pointed me at like, hey, maybe you should try to smash these two things together. So
Yeah.
let's see what happens.